Peace. Greetings to you all. It's your brother Naheem, BKA Lord Abba, aka Mr. Just the Facts. Family, let me know if y'all can hear me out there. If anybody that's listening there, put a one up in the chat. And let me make sure that my audio is coming through. I got a new mic, new equipment, new computer. So I need to know if y'all can hear me. Put a one up in the chat if y'all can hear me, fam. Okay, we got some ones. Shout out to everybody in the building. I see Sister Shanna is on deck. Sister Faye XX is on deck. Our brother Black Seed, the child of life, is on deck. Damian Wilson is on deck. Fatima Thomas is on deck. Sister Cynthia is on deck. BTP is in the building. Look, man, we are we restart. I had to go with the old intro while because I don't know which direction to go with the new intro, and so I'm kind of stuck in between what to do with the new intro. And if anybody has any skills in putting those type of things together, please hit us up. Certain people, they was looking out for us before, and as this reparations movement started to progress and we started to become louder voices in it, we noticed that a lot of people started to fall back. A lot of people wanted us to say things the way that they wanted them said, and a whole bunch of crazy stuff. I'm like, not us. Y'all got us confused. Y'all might want to go back over there with Yvette and them. Not us. Y'all got this thing confused. So look, family, make sure y'all hit the like button. Shout out to the OG Otis in the building. I see you. Hit the like button. Share the video out. Let's share this out. We're gonna be playing and dissecting a video from this white woman I never heard of before, but everybody is going viral off of the reparations conversation to people that are anti-reparations. My green screen looks a little crazy. I could see the green, actually. That don't look right. I'm not even going to try to mess with it midstream. I'm gonna let it alone. So we wanted to come on here as we restart Be the Power and play that video. Of course, for us, it's just going back to the basics, right? We've heard this stuff over and over and over and over again. And, Thomas Sowell. I used to always say that I was going to dedicate some time to Thomas Sowell. So I'm not going to go in on what Thomas Sowell said. Maybe if some of the other brothers join later, if they want to take it there, because I want to dedicate like a series, maybe 2 live streams to the BS scholarship that Thomas Sowell is putting out there. This is, there's scholarship, right? Scholarship is scholarship, but there's good scholarship and there's bad scholarship. And, we're starting to see that on Twitter. We're starting to see a bunch of bad scholarship, and there's some people is rewarding bad scholarship. But we're going to be using good scholarship today, because that's what we've always done on Be the Power. Iron Physique, what's going on, fam? Michael Cooper is in the building. Shout out to my family out there that's in Los Angeles, man. The family that I rock with out there in Los Angeles. Jonathan, Brian, Freedmen, what's going on, fam? Peace. The New England Freedmen are in the building. So let me see. Where do I want to start? Hey, subscribe to this. This is the other BTP channel. This is the BTP Media Group channel. Make sure y'all subscribe. Sister Shannon said, happy born day to Brother Ibrahim. Absolutely. Happy born day to the bro. And happy born day to, some people's B-days that I got to shout out. I won't shout them out by name, but they know who they are. They're listening. And let me see. Where do I want to go? Oh, subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to the channel. This is the BTP Media Group channel. This will be the channel that we are live streaming from right now. We are also live streaming to Twitter. We are also live streaming to Facebook. I may cut those streams off at some point. I may leave the Twitter stream up so that everybody could come over to the YouTube stream, because we need the traffic on this YouTube channel of ours. This rather new channel of ours. So let me see. Let's get into let's get into this. Let's get into this. Want to play this video from this crazy woman. I would just call her crazy because the stuff she's saying to me is crazy. Crazy. Let me see. Let me find it. I already put the links in here. Let me scroll through the inbox. Some of these people are incorrigible, man. Facts and proof and truth, none of those things matter to these people. So, matter of fact, let me set this up, man. Make sure y'all hit that like button. Make sure y'all are sharing this video out. I want to pull up, we're going back to the basics. So I want to pull up the MLK video before we get started. Pull that up. What else did I want to pull up? There was something else. Think. I'm on air. I should have had this stuff pulled up already. So, okay, we'll read her caption first. We'll read her. She definitely sounds bitter. But that's what I know what I wanted to pull up. I know what I wanted to pull up. I know what I wanted to pull up. All right, so y'all bear with me, fam, because we gonna go in. We are gonna go in. Let's pull this Natalie Jean Beisner, and she shouldn't mind that we're pulling her profile and stuff up. She put out a public video, and public videos deserve public responses. So let's see. Let's switch this up. Okay. All right. So she says, no one alive in the U.S. today deserves reparations for slavery. Reparations will rip this country further apart when we have a suffering people of all colors. Oh, this is funny. This country that's already ripped apart. This country is already ripped apart. These people are liars. They are liars, and they know that they're lying. They lie like they breathe. It's like breathing to them. But let me finish. Handing out government money, i.e. taxpayer money, to citizens regardless of need, and just because of who their ancestors were, is abhorrent. So, you know what? Let me read. Even if we could magically give everyone $1 million, we're not asking for this government to magically give everyone $1 million. Your framing is wrong, Natalie. Your framing is wrong. Even if we could magically give everyone $1 million, there would still be many talking about microaggressions, systemic racism, and racist roots of our nation. It wouldn't solve our nation's problem or our individual issues. See, the problem here, Natalie, with your statement, there's many problems. Reparations isn't designed to fix systemic racism and the racist roots of, well, let me pause on that one. Actually, it is designed to fix systemic racism. That it is the way a true reparations program will be designed, will be to fix systemic racism. Non-repetition. But we'll get into that a little bit later. And the racist roots of our nation. The racist roots of the nation are never going to change. People like you water the tree that those roots are buried into this American soil every single day. You water them. You water those roots. And the tree of racism, which is evinced by your very words on this post and in the video that I'm about to play from you, they're my proof. It wouldn't solve our nation's problems or our individual issues. Your individual issues aren't the same as our individual issues, the issues of American freedmen. And I'm going to get into some of that in a few. There are older Black Americans who likely do deserve financial compensation because they themselves were directly affected by harmful racist policies that were still in place. But not everyone who is merely a descendant of a slave. No. And not younger Americans who've never actually had to deal with legal or systemic racism, despite what they claim. Just because you have an oppressed mentality doesn't mean you're actually oppressed. And she's going to, why is this buffering? Because she explains this in the video, but I don't understand why I'm getting buffering action right now. Let's see. Okay, on that end, everything looks good. I'm going to play it. Y'all let me know if y'all can hear it.
And what they have earned just because there are victims.
And let's hear what
you do not deserve reparations for slavery. People who
Natalie?
Never own slaves. You do not deserve reparations for slavery. People who never owned slaves do not owe anything to people who never were slaves. If a debt is owed to American slaves who are obviously no longer with us, then the debt is each of ours, because we each benefit from living today in a nation that they, among many others, built. But it's not just white Americans who benefit. Especially the younger generations, they have never faced any legal or systemic racism, despite what they claim. They deserve nothing other than what they have earned. Just because there are victim mentalities doesn't mean there are actual slaves, okay? There are white Americans whose ancestors paid the ultimate price fighting on behalf of the Union in the Civil War. Do they get a free pass from paying reparations? Since we're all taking on the sins of our fathers, are we also taking on their graces? There are white Americans whose ancestors never owned slaves. There are Black Americans whose ancestors sold other Black people into slavery. This isn't as black and white as we claim, and throwing money at people doesn't solve their problems, nor will it fix our current cultural obsession with race. There are white Americans who have no generational wealth that you all love to speak of, who have nothing. Americans of all colors who have nothing. What about them? If we're going to continue to hand out government aid, then it has to continue to be needs-based. And if you say Black Americans need more because of a history that includes slavery, well, they will continue to benefit then disproportionately from needs-based aid. It's a win-win. But giving money to people, even if they don't need it, just because of who their ancestors were, is abhorrent. You cannot fix one wrong with another wrong. What about every single struggling American of every color?
Okay, so y'all heard that. We're gonna I know it was buffering, but I'll put the link to the video in the chat, and we're gonna dissect this woman's hatred, because that you're right, Sister Frida. This is pure hatred. This is pure hatred, and we're gonna dissect it. So let's come out of this.
You do not deserve reparations for slavery.
You do
People
not
who never
deserve
own slaves do
reparations
not owe
for
anything.
slavery. We'll start there. So let me see. Where do I want to start? Where do I want to start with this?
To people who never were slaves. If a debt is owed to American slaves who are obviously no longer with
Okay, you know what? This is what we're gonna do. Let's read. Let me blow blow the dust off. Blow the dust off of this book right here, From Here to Equality. It's been a while since I had to crack it open. This is good scholarship right here, by the way. Over here at BTP, we reward good scholarship. We don't reward bad scholarship. We don't listen to a bunch of babble and call it good scholarship. I don't know where they do that at, but they obviously do it somewhere. So let me dominate my screen. Let's see. This is what I want to start with. We're going to read today. I got a bunch of stuff that I want to read from. So let's get into this. This is from the book From Here to Equality, page 246. So the argument is blacks already have received reparations in the form of an abundance of welfare monies and funds from other social programs. Because this is what this white woman brought up, right? And we have to question these people to make sure that they are of Anglo-Saxon descent, that they are Anglo-Saxon descent. I don't know why I'm getting some delay. I wonder if this is StreamYard doing this or what, because hold on 1 second, y'all. Y'all bear with me. Could be the virtual background. I think that's what it is. All right, we should be good now. I'm not sure. Okay, let's go. So blacks already received reparations in the form of an abundance of welfare monies and funds from other social programs. Ironically, when those social programs were first introduced in the 1930s, they were structured to exclude blacks from their benefits. Blacks did not get full access to the nation's social safety net until 1965, 3 decades later. Moreover, America's social programs were never black specific initiatives. In fact, excluding benefits from agricultural and domestic household workers, when the majority of blacks were employed in those occupations, was one of the conditions congressmen from the southern states exacted in exchange for their support. See, we know that, what is her name? Natalie, Karen, something. We know that she doesn't know this and she doesn't care to know this. And that the people that she caters to, they don't care to know this. For them, it is about maintaining white supremacy. And in order to maintain supremacy, no one can be seen as your equals. And this has always been the mindset of people like this woman right here. So it says, preventing these workers from educational opportunities and higher paying jobs protected the Southern quote unquote way of life. This is what we're witnessing with her words. This is what we're witnessing with everyone who comes against reparations. They're trying to protect the white way of life, and equality of any kind gets frowned upon, because then superiority, this false notion of superiority goes away. It says, it has also never been true that the majority of recipients of federal benefits are black. This is just false. It's false. The biggest recipient of affirmative action, which was supposed to be for the American freedmen, went to white women. That's where it went, to white women. People like Natalie, I'll keep forgetting her name. Anyway, and he goes on to cite Ira Katznelson, right? In Ira Katznelson's book. And I'm going to show that book in 1 second. But what I want to do is let me come out of it. I want to go to this article. Stop sharing this, because we have to show step by step exactly how these people became what they became. And when it was time for us to get the same in the form of safety nets, to build ourselves up as a middle class, these devils said no. Like, we have to call a spade a spade. We have to. Shout out to all you John Browns out there. You know, those white Americans that fight for social equality. I don't know too many of you. But shout out to you out there. We are not going to indict a whole people like they do us, right? What they say, that Black Americans are 14% of the population, and yet they commit 50% of the crimes. By this twisted logic, that means every Black American is a criminal. My 2-year-old about to be 2-year-old grandson, and my 87-year-old grandmother is just out there gangbanging. Yay. They're bangers. They out there doing drive-bys. They're out there doing robberies. They're out there doing everything, according to this twisted white supremacist logic. Peace, Bond Dog. Peace, BTP Corey. I see you in the building. That's right, A Blue. A Blue says she's right. We don't deserve reparations. We're owed reparations. There's a big difference, and we're going to get to some of that in a few. Let me blow this up right here. Let's take a look at this, right? Because in the book From Here to Equality, that good scholarship, Dr. Dougherty, this is that good scholarship right here. He highlights this point, and he goes on to reference Ira Katznelson's book, and which I'm going to pull up in one minute. So, how today's white middle class was made possible by welfare. Whites, angered at Blacks and immigrants receiving government, quote unquote, government handouts, forget that they were lifted out of poverty through racially exclusive welfare programs in the 30s. Between 2001 and 2010, you know what? Let's read this. Between 2001 and 2010, Westmoreland County, Pennsylvania lost at least 8,000 manufacturing jobs. That's one explanation for why this once blue region gave more votes to Donald Trump than did any other Pennsylvania county, helping swing the state in his favor and propelling him to a surprise victory. We want our jobs back. John Golem, a retired steel worker, yada, 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 yada. A form of historical amnesia also afflicts Westmoreland County. Largely absent from discussions of its decline are the ambitious social welfare programs that once helped its residents climb out of poverty. 2 generations ago, this area of rural Pennsylvania was the site of a sweeping and successful federal housing program, the New Deal. Subsistence homestead programs launched in 1933 with $25 million, built modern low-homes for low-wage industrial workers and gave them plots of land for subsistence farming. In this corner of coal country, devastated by dangerous labor practices and low wages, federal officials constructed a new community. But let me read that again, because that when we say federal officials, we're talking about the government. Quote unquote big government. See, it's big when it's for everybody else. When it's for them, it's just government. It's just government. Federal officials constructed a new community that gave poor white families a stepping stone to home ownership in the middle class. The story of this housing program is told by historians, yada, 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 yada. And basically, because I want to get to a bunch of stuff, but basically, this is what this article highlights. It highlights this fact, and let me put this link in the chat, that the welfare system, the handout system that whites rail against today, built the middle class along the Rust Belt in this country. Built it. I'll read the giant quote. Today, the federal government's role in building and subsidizing the homestead communities and the larger government programs to subsidize construction of white suburbs across the nation is all but erased from history. You see this woman, Natalie, is that her name? Natalie Jean Beisner. I'll just keep calling her Karen. Natalie Jean Beisner. That doesn't sound like an Anglo-Saxon name to me. She sounds like an Ellis Island, the descendant of an Ellis Island immigrant whose ancestors can't be traced back to the slavocracy, the bourgeoisie planter class in this country. I don't know. Beisner, that I'm not sure. Could be German. And we know that there were some Germans that migrated over here in the early 1800s. See Hamburg, South Carolina. But we can clearly see through the history that today's white middle class was built by government funding. Point blank, period. They don't know that. They have an amnesia. So let me stop sharing this. I'll put that link in the chat. When affirmative action was white, this is the book that Darity and Mullen goes into. They pull their quotes from in the book From Here to Equality, where I was just reading from. And this book details how white Americans in this country used the benefits, the handouts of this government to build themselves a middle class in this country. And what happened? What happened when these people were receiving these benefits from the government that they say that they detest? When black people wanted the same things, white lawmakers said no. No. 30 years we were excluded from the safety nets in this country. And then guess what happened when we started to get welfare 30 years later? White backlash. And whites like Natalie, racist whites in this country, said no. And the government said, well, we got to do something. But what we'll do is we'll not give them as much as we gave y'all. Is that fair? Whites still said no, but the government did it anyway. And so we got crumbs compared to the slices of cake that white America got. This book, When Affirmative Action Was White, details this. We have to talk about this. We have to have discussions, and we have to have debates about this. Make sure y'all get this book. Make sure y'all get this book. I want to, let's go to Chicago. Let's jump around a little bit. Because that article I was just reading from detailed the fact that there were new housing being built by the federal government for white Americans. For white Americans. Peace, Sister Antonia. I see you in the building. Shout out to everybody that's watching it. Make sure y'all click that like button and share the video out. And support the channel. Hit that Cash app. The link is pinned to the comment section. $sign be the power. You can also support by using the super chat. We're still trying to grow our platform, family. So let's get into Chicago. Because during Reconstruction, Andrew Johnson, the worst president in the history of the United States of America, rolled back all of Abraham Lincoln and the radical Republicans' assistance that was given to the freedmen who were fresh out of slavery. Andrew Johnson said the Negro should be able to pull himself up by his own bootstraps. And they began rolling back every measure that was put in place by the real Republicans, because these people that claim to be Republicans today, they're rhinos. They are Republicans in name only. They are really Democrats. They are chameleons. They wear the facade of the Republican Party in name only, but historically, and we can trace their actions and their rhetoric from the moment that I'm speaking about Reconstruction all the way up to today. And you're going to hear people that sound just like Natalie. Y'all hear us read from that book, The Bloody Shirt, all the time. I might read a quote from it in a few. The freedmen said, okay, pull ourselves up by our bootstraps. We ain't got no boots, but hold our beers. Freedmen went to work. With the little bit of land that we had, they rolled back the 40 acres and the mule. And with the little bit of land that we had, we started to build for ourselves. And we took our money and we put it in the Freedmen Savings and Trust Bank. There was no trust in that bank. Whites looted that bank, used the hard earnings of those freedmen. The today's worth is in the billions of dollars of what was lost just in that bank alone. Still, somehow, we were able to pull ourselves up by our bootless straps. Somehow, we were able to travel from the south to the north under the guise that we could make a new way. But there was a familiar foe when we got to the north. And we found that the devil in the south was also in the north as well. And we were able to get jobs, start businesses. And on each side of us, whites were destroying us. And then they took over the real estate markets. And that's what this article speaks about. So let's read about what happened to the blacks in Chicago, the freedmen, the American freedmen, because we got to be clear. We're not just talking about black people. We're talking about America's freedmen. Many people in the black community once used home ownership as a means of building wealth. But a report published on Thursday reveals that black Chicagoans who purchased homes between 1950 and 1970 never had a chance of making money because of predatory housing practices. Now, this woman said that maybe old people. So when she says old, I'm guessing she means like they're 100 years old, like some of our family that's still living in Tulsa. Not the people that might be 60 or 70 years old. She can't be talking about them. No way. Because these are the people that were robbed of the opportunity of bequeathing generational wealth. Because she disavowed that too. But anyway, let's finish reading. The report called, quote, "The Plunder of Black Wealth in Chicago. New findings on the lasting toll of predatory housing contracts," conducted by researchers from various universities, revealed that more than 75% of black home buyers in Chicago who bought their homes through the quote-unquote home sale contracts during this era lost between $3.2 billion and $4 billion of wealth due to racist real estate policies and predatory contracts, according to the Chicago Sun-Times. These buyers, unfortunately, permitted the seller to hold the deed of their home until the buyers could pay off the full amount. Buyers were paying at least $71,000 more on their home than a conventional mortgage. This process prevented the buyer from accumulating equity and gave the owners all the power, since they still had the right to evict the buyer if they missed the payment. This is the first piece of research that shows exactly how much money was taken from the black community during that time. And family, this wasn't just going on in Chicago. This paper just focuses on Chicago because we seen, as was shown by the article done in The Atlantic by Ta-Nehisi Coates that there was an emphasis placed on Chicago because right-wingers in this country, the racist whites in this country, like to point to Chicago because they want the rest of not just America, but the world to believe that we are inherently criminal. Let me put this link in the inbox. Put this, in the chat. Y'all make sure y'all click like on the video. I know this is a newer channel, but we're gonna grow it out. Advertise this channel for us, fam. Let's grow this out. We have to be the voice because we are the leading voices in this movement right now. Nobody's doing it the way Be the Power is doing it. The United Sons and Daughters of Freedmen is doing it. And shout out to all of our other Freedmen family who are doing it. We don't mean it in that way. We're talking about those other groups out there that pretend like they are for this fight and they are not. They are not. So I put that link in the chat. These people want the world to believe that we are inherent criminals. They don't think about the fact that Black folks in this country always strove for jobs and to do the right things. We were forced into criminality. Italians, Jews, and Irishmen in New York City, for instance, formed a criminal cabal called Murder Inc. They imported criminality to this country. While we were fighting for jobs in the North, the families were forming. La Cosa Nostra was forming. Murder Inc. These people's name was Murder Inc. Don't tell me, well, you guys got a rap label called Murder Inc. that came out in the 2000s. They wasn't killing nobody. They weren't killers. That was just a name. It was a performative name. They didn't kill people, but Murder Inc., on the other hand, which comprised of the Italian, Jewish, and Irish mafia, murdered hundreds of people. Look it up. Look it up. These people imported criminality. Whites in this country have been committing criminal offenses against the American freedmen since its inception. What do you think the KKK was? This was a criminal, terroristic organization. That's why it's considered a domestic terrorist organization today. They had to form, the Congress had to pass Ku Klux Klan acts in 1871 and 1872, the enforcement acts. Criminals. But this is the projection of white supremacy. Try to make us the bad guys. Chicago is the product of racist real estate practices in that city. That's who you blame. You blame the people that caused the condition. That's where the blame goes. And this is why these people don't want to have these conversations with us, because we would absolutely destroy them. Destroy them. So let's close this one out. Let's move on to the next thing. Where do I want to go with this? Okay, let's go here. Because, this person said that, am I hitting a paywall? I am hitting a paywall. I wanted to show this article from Wells Fargo that showed that half of Wells Fargo's Black applicants were rejected during the housing refinance boom. Maybe I could get the headline to pop up for a minute. There it goes, right? Okay, so y'all are not going to be able to see it. I am subscribed to Bloomberg News. All right, well, I'll just put that link in the chat. I don't know how I got signed out, but she said that these racist practices are not still going on. This woman is delusional. She's delusional. Let's go back to her tweet. There are older Black Americans who likely do deserve financial compensation because they themselves were directly affected by harmful racist policies that were still in place. But not everyone who is merely a descendant of a slave, no, and not younger Americans who've never actually had to deal with legal or systemic racism, despite what they claim. This is more of I'm white and I say so. This chick just said, despite what they claim. Who the who the hell do you think you are to tell a person that they're not experiencing what they're experiencing? This is that Karen mentality that we've seen develop over the past 5 years, family. I can tell you that what you're experiencing is not racism. Who else has adopted this? The Supreme Court with their but-for standard. But for discrimination or racism, excuse me, can you prove that you were discriminated against? Can you show me an email? Can you show me anything outside of the fact that you and these 20 other Black people or 20 other Black businesses were actually discriminated against? No? Sorry, we have to dismiss your case. The Supreme Court is a branch of the government. It's also, quote unquote, big government. People forget that part. And one of these days, we are going to delve deep into how the courts have been one of, if not the main arm of oppression when it comes to the three branches of government in this American society. See, the system is not messed up. No. It's the racists that run the system. You get the racist out of the system, and the system will run like a well-oiled machine. This is why they never wanted us in power. I'm going to get into a little bit of that later. Let's get into this next article. Let's get into this next article. Hold on. Let's get into this. Y'all know we pull this one up all the time, but I'm going to pull it up from a different source. Let's pull this one up from a different source. Okay. Racism has cost the U.S. $16 trillion. Citigroup study finds. I don't know what Natalie is looking at. See, Natalie lives in a bubble. That's why she gets to spew these talking points that she spews. And she would never have this debate. We would get one of the sisters to clean Natalie up easy work. And if any of the men would like to step up, come through. Come get this work. But anyway, racism has cost the U.S. $16 trillion, Citigroup finds. Let's read this. America could have been $16 trillion richer if not for inequities in education, housing, wages, and business investments between Black and white Americans over the past 20 years, new research concludes. This woman, let's go back to her words. There are older Black Americans who likely do deserve financial compensation because they themselves were directly affected by harmful racist policies that were still in place. But not everyone who is merely a descendant of a slave. No, and not younger Americans who've never actually had to deal with legal or systemic racism, despite what they claim. Well, forget what they claim for a moment, Natalie. This is Citigroup. Citigroup did this study, one of the largest financial institutions in this country. And according to their research, not your banal rhetoric that you can't back up, according to their research, they have shown that this country, since the year 2000, the past 20 years, lost $16 trillion due to discrimination against my people, the American freedmen. So you are a liar. And if you don't know that you are lying, you know now. Are you going to change up your talking points? Of course not. You're going to keep running with these same talking points. But let's continue reading. The study released this week by Citigroup is the latest in a body of research that attempts to quantify the economic impact of systemic racism. Citigroup arrived at its $16 trillion figure after estimating that Black workers have lost $113 billion in potential wages over the past 2 decades because they couldn't get a college degree. Racism. I can pull up something on that as well that show the diversity for diversity's sake article that shows how these colleges bypass Black people in general. But when they did choose Black people, they chose the immigrant Blacks over the American freedmen. I can pull that up. Y'all know we pull that up all the time here. Next, the housing market lost $218 billion in sales because Black applicants couldn't get home loans. Racism. We've shown on this platform how even with perfect credit scores, and you all can Google this right now, Black applicants did not receive the same loans as their white counterparts due to their race. This is today's times. These articles is from a year, 2, 3, 4, and 5 years ago. Natalie is lying. She's lying. The next point, about $13 trillion in business revenue never flowed into the economy because Black entrepreneurs couldn't access bank loans. Whoa. Lack of access to capital. There's a trope that if you give Black people money, they're just going to go waste it. They're going to engage in profligate spending, wasteful spending, right? We've heard this come from one of our more recent presidents that I put up there as one of the worst presidents in this country for us, which is Barack Obama, where he, speaking to a bunch of students, I believe at Howard University, said, you got to work twice as hard. Working twice as hard makes you twice as exhausted, because obviously it doesn't work for us. Citigroup is laying that out right in front of our faces. And that you can't take your money and go spend it on 8-pound gold chains. This is what Barack Obama said. Barack Obama wasn't an American freedman. His white side came from, or he descended through his white side from slave owners in this country. And his Black side came from Kenya. So he wasn't one of us. So Barack Obama couldn't identify with us, our struggle and our plight. He cosplayed as one of us. Michelle Obama gave him the access that he was looking for to be one of us. So he would trail her out every so often to give the appearance that he was one of us. A little Al Green bars at the Apollo. I am so in love with you. Get the crowd screaming, oh, he's really one of us. Wrong. Wrong. During the pandemic, we started to notice that there were many Black businesses that were being formed by Black people in this country. Study, and we've pulled that study up here, a study showed that because of the infusions of cash to America via the pandemic and the $600 a week in unemployment, Black Americans became the largest group that had start-up businesses in this country. Our problems were always the same. I would like to see a study now done on the same. We got Brother Ibrahim joining us. BTP Ibrahim is on deck. What's going on, brother, man?
Yeah, what's going on? I seen that tweet, man. You know, I'm so tired of these white former Democrats turn Republicans.
That's right.
And the first thing they do when they get on the Republican side is start taking a crap on black people. It's like, man, like, yeah, all the issues that the right and the left don't get along with, and the first thing you do to solidify your stance on the right is to go against the black. It's like, come on, man, we're such a small percentage of this country. You know, somebody challenged her on the post and asked about how she feels about Ukraine, and she says, just all you got to do is put Ukraine in the search bar. You'll see that I went at them too. And what you think was one tweet. It was just one tweet. It was just one tweet. She does this big, long, elongated Twitter post about the necessities of black people not getting reparations and why we don't deserve them, right? And I'm thinking about what's the statute of limitations on rape, murder, torture, kidnap, you know, plundering, pillaging. What's the statute of limitations on that? They be looking for abducted, kidnapped white children, especially little white girls, for years and years and years and years and years. Dang near for over a generation. If you think about that Matt Walsh show, all that started because this child was abducted. And that show stood on the air for from the time I was a baby up until I was a grown person. When something happens to them, it don't never go away. Never forget. Every 9/11, never forget. But when it comes to us, it's like, oh, just forget about it. We got other poor people. We got poor brown people coming into this country. We got poor white people that been in this country less than y'all, but they still been here. And we got to figure out a way. She says in the post that we should do it on a needy basis. And if you want people to be able to get government help, it should be by need. And it's like, see, we way past that. We way past the need. We way past the need. We had a need during Reconstruction. We are way past that. And if you do things in order of principles and need, then how are you arguing against reparations? Because we've been in line way before these other groups, right?
That's right.
So Silicon Valley Bank would have been, y'all claim would have been way in the back. We would have got to y'all like 150, 200 years from now. Ukraine would have been way in the back. We would have just left Afghanistan and left them and said, we're going to come get y'all, but we got to focus on the priorities first. And there's no greater priority than getting the black financial and family, like everything we've done to them back situated. So she basically guts her own argument, because if America starts prioritizing stuff, we actually wouldn't even have to go back to slavery. Because like you said, I want to say decade, but basically every 5 years, something traumatic. You spoke on the, what certain banks was calling mud loans, the subprime loans and the subprime mortgages. Even when black people qualify for prime mortgages, when they had good credit, they still got subprime loans and subprime mortgages. We think about the businesses. Even when black people qualify for great business loans, they still get denied, and then have to go and like seek out these predatory loans, or the predatory loaners seek them out, right? When you think about how our community is not just policed, but over policed, and we held over accountable, right? And we do more time for other groups of people in this country, even when we commit the same crime. When you think about 66% of the exoneratees are black men, right? You can just go on and on and on. Even something as prevalent as Black Lives Matter, right? And not as not as the organization, but just as, you know, the slogan and the initial grassroots movement. What we see is that when black people get killed, they even get less money than when white people get killed. When you look at, I think her name was Justine Damon up in Minneapolis, when she got killed by I think he was an East African, I think it was Somalian police officer. He got incarcerated immediately, and her family got the biggest payout that there was up to this day. That's excluding Corin Gaines, who got it, but then the judge immediately came in, and now I believe they still litigating it. And not only did she lose her life, her son got shot in that incident. But if you just go to and these are freedmen, right? These are freedmen. When you look at, you know, the incarceration rate for black males, these ain't just black males. These are American freedmen men. When you look at the eviction rate for black women, these ain't just black men. This is led by American freedmen women. When you look at the high unemployment rates among black men, these ain't just black men. These are American freedmen men.
Right.
When you look at like the undomiciled, right? The increase in homelessness and those who can't get homes, you know what I'm saying? Those are freedmen. So it's like, how do you want to chop this thing up? One thing I'll give you that I believe the California Reparations Task Force did a great job on was getting into the nuances of just how much we've been plundered. That's right. So like, okay, let's use that report, right? Let's use that report, since that's the first government report done since the 60s. Let's use that one, you know, but they don't want to get into that. They want to get into these, basically, I'm white, I say so, this is how it goes, and we're going to prioritize everything. And everybody, you know, it's basically that rising tide lifts all boats narrative. And that's what they want to go with. And it's like, who are you? Where did you come from, man? Like we don't need to hear you. We don't need to hear your opinion at all. You know, this idea that not all white people are wealthy, not all white people, some white people come from poverty. It's like, stop it. Like, who you talking to? We ain't the NOI over here. You know, I woke up to Nuri Muhammad talking about our buying power and how we squander our money. You know what I'm saying? That's not us over here. That's not us. You know what I'm saying? We understand that wealth is a community asset. It's done by communities, right? We not picking off individuals and saying, oh, Oprah's wealthy, we don't need no money. Michael Jordan's wealthy, if we all knew how to do a 360 from the free throw line, we could all be wealthy, you know.
And just shut up and dribble along with it. Don't forget that.
Yeah, you know, and that's what they always want to do. Even when you think about, you know, this is an old conversation. When I mean old, I mean like 7 days old. It's not a hot topic no more. But I was listening to, I think it was The View, and the black attorney who kind of looked racially ambiguous. I believe she mixed with something. But anyway, she is American Freedmen.
Sonny Hostin.
Sonny, yeah. Sonny was talking about generational wealth. And Sonny was saying if black women want generational wealth, then maybe they shouldn't marry a bus driver. Maybe they should just go at it alone. It made absolutely no sense. But this is the tropes that we hear. And that comes on ABC, CBS, something like that. That's a major broadcasting channel. And you just hear these narratives over and over and over and over. And white people start to feed into that. And what they use when they want to go at black people is that same narrative. And they'll even reference these sources. We've seen that in Mitch McConnell, right? His defense for shutting down reparations was to point to the black person that he knew that espoused some racist stuff, right? He went straight to Obama.
That's right.
And said, wait, Obama comes from slaves like me. Why do black people need reparations? Obama don't think black people need reparations, right? This is a man who went against Obama for 8 years, didn't agree with basically anything on Obama with.
He said he was going to make him do everything in his power to make him a one-term president.
Yeah. Went at him for 8 years. For 8 years, right? If you look in that tweet, what did the lady do? The first thing she did was go and find a tweet of Professor what's Professor?
You're gonna pull him up next.
Thomas Sowell. Like that's the for like any white person quoting Thomas Sowell, just write him off. Any black person quoting Thomas Sowell, just write him off.
Right.
He's the go-to professor when it comes to trying to knock black arguments down. The first thing she goes is to Thomas Sowell. If you're familiar with races like Just Pearly thing, they love quoting Thomas Sowell. They love it. Everybody goes to this man. He's a black man. He's an educated black man. He has a black wife. He fits the description, and he's anti-black, right? So you got this whole Clarence Thomas approach, but he comes with the packaged black family with it. And then you get into his, I don't even want to call it academia, man, because he just be I don't know
Doc,
what it is.
Hey, Dr. D, now that is not good scholarship that Thomas Sowell.
No, that ain't. Thomas Sowell is saying
Dr. D, man.
He bases everything off his anecdotal experience of growing up in the South and being able to make it. And I'm like, this is just Ben Carson all over again, right? Ben Carson kind of understood, and then when he got on the national stage, he just forgot about everything.
Oh yeah,
right.
Oh, yeah.
But it's like this is him all over again. So anytime somebody starts to quote Thomas Sowell, it's like, man, you should have just said Jesse Lee Peterson. We could have just cut the mustard and got right to it.
That's right.
So
That's right.
This lady's whole argument was disingenuous, and she did what covert white supremacists always do, right? She used a black man as cover. She used immigrants to be a filler between black and whites, and then she pointed to the poor white. That's the triumvirate for covert white supremacists trying to knock down not just reparations, but basically any claim that American freedmen try to make. The first thing they're gonna do is, I got a black friend.
That's right.
I can't be racist. I got a black friend, right? And then the second thing is it's gonna be black and brown. They got to anchor in somebody else. They got to let me call my girlfriend Ann Brown. I got to get her in this conversation. She'll be a perfect person to be in this conversation.
That's right.
I remember when I used to drive across country. I used to pull up to these truck stops. They had little restaurants in them, and like, man, these truckers is like the loneliest people, man. They would just be there. It's like, don't start a conversation with them. They're gonna be talking to you all night. But I remember this white guy. He's just talking to me, man, and I can tell by the gist of the conversation that he's a right winger, hard right winger, and he's talking to me about the needs of America. And he starts basically framing the conversation as most people don't know what they want. And he's really talking about black people. And he's saying that I have a Mexican buddy that just came here. He knows more about politics than me. He knows more about politics than most people. Basically saying that we don't know what the hell we doing. We just out here and we just advocating for stuff. And we don't. And I'm thinking like, you in a privileged position, and I want people to understand this. This is not just for America. This is historically. When you are part of the dominant community, you have the privilege of being ignorant, and it won't hurt you, right? So yes, there's a lot of white people that don't know about politics because politics isn't something necessarily that they got to engage in to get what they need from this country, because there's a small group of the majority that puts that work in for them, and then it circulates down, and they get it trickles down, and they get the benefit from them. But when you are of the minority, you don't have the privilege of being ignorant. You can still be ignorant, but you're going to be harmed by your ignorance, right? You know that. So us being a minority, and this isn't bootstrap talk, but this is just that push to say why we have to know politics, why we have to know what we're doing. You know, they say ignorance of the law is no excuse, right? But what happens when the police over polices your community? You gotta know the law. You gotta know the law. You gotta be like, no, that's illegal. You can't do that. That's against my rights. Even if you can't fight back until you get locked up and go to court. Like, ignorance of the law is no excuse. You gonna be over police because you are the minority, because your status puts you in a position where they want to put you in prison. They want to do every bad thing that they can do to you in America because they build industry off of it. So you don't have that privilege. I have this conversation inside the Islamic community all the time, you know, being a Shiite, talking to the Sunnis. Like, a lot of times I tell them, like, man, it's just certain things y'all don't know about us because y'all the majority. Y'all don't really have to know, right? Like majority rules, right? Majority rules, and that's what we find ourselves in. So that's just a bigger push for us. Like, we know more because we have to know more, right? Because our survival depends on knowing more.
Like right now, what we're doing right now is flexing the fact that we absolutely know more. We know more than this Natalie person. We know more than Thomas Sowell. We know more than Vivek Ramaswamy. We know more than Nikki Haley. We know more than Matt Walsh. We know more than all of these people that make these claims, Bill Maher, and they won't debate us. And some of them, they know who we are. And I know that for a fact. I know that I've been made aware of that recently. That some of them know exactly who we are, but they won't debate us. They won't have a discussion with us. So it goes back to catering to that quote unquote majority, right? And then what is the majority? The majority is something that is concocted, because when you look at the American freedmen, we are the second largest ethnic group in this country after the German Americans. So then it becomes, well, I have to add Italians, Jews, Irish, everybody that has pale skin, and I have to call them white. You brought up Ann Brown, which is our euphemism to say people always bringing in these other people. And what about the brown race? Well, these people, when they fill out their applications, they don't put brown, because brown is not a racial classification. They put white. Most of these put people that identify as Hispanic, check a box that says white Hispanic.
You think DeSantos puts brown?
Who?
DeSantos, the governor of Florida. You think DeSantos puts brown when he filled out DeSantos?
No, he's Italian. He's actually Italian. So
what about Mark Rubio?
Yeah, of course.
You think he's checking white on those boxes, or he's checking brown?
White Hispanic.
White, yeah.
Yep. White Hispanic.
You got the luxury of kind of like jumping in and out, right? Zimmerman can be white his whole life and then show up at some type of Latino parade and be Hispanic for a day, or be Latino or Latinx, and then go back to his all white community and continue being white.
That's right. And that's what whiteness is, right? I have a book right here called White by Law that many of you see me read from on this platform. I have another book called The Invention of the White Race by Theodore W. Allen. Like, these are fictitious constructs that are used by the quote unquote dominant society with the purpose of creating a superior and inferior class. And it's all based off of what these people's ideas of themselves and what they think about.
You know, you was making a point about why certain people don't talk to us, why certain people, I mean, you even mentioned Dirty, right? He doesn't get a lot of mainstream media airplay, right? Because he knows how to weaponize the data in his language and really be quick-witted with his rebuttal. That's why Dr. Phil had to go to break. And they definitely not going to come and talk to us, but they do know who to talk to. And what I mean by when you are the minority, you know, being ignorant can cost you. I'm going to give an example, right? They go and talk to people who are either ignorant or have submitted to their way of thinking, right? Even to the detriment of themselves. Kingface was a great example. This was a man running around talking about do for self and talking about how black people was lazy and talking about how he came from Haiti and they ate soups and they did whatever they needed to do until their family came up and they built wealth. Then we found out he was gravely ill. Then we found out he passed away, and he passed away. They was running a GoFundMe because he didn't have any health insurance, right? So like, he was speaking against his own benefit by speaking against us, by espousing their racist ideology, anti-black, anti-freedmen ideology amongst us, just to get a couple of dollars, right? Just to get a couple of dollars, when he was missing the whole conversation that could have really impacted him and stabilized him and gave him health insurance and everything, right? And that's what I mean by that ignorance. They seek out certain people who don't mind committing suicide. Once you stray away from the flock, you done. You there. They do what they want to. You know, you can rise no higher than the community you come from. Now, I know he was part of the black immigrant community, but I'm just saying, right? You still get the collateral damage because they put you in our communities when you come over here, right? So like this rhetoric, it doesn't just hurt us; it hurts everybody, right?
That's right.
You read off the reports how, you know, America misses out when you don't have a strong, steady working class, right? A stable working class, right? America misses out. It hurts America. It hurts America to have these communities that's basically cesspool of all type of heinous acts that's going on, right? And people say, well, don't drive into this community. You got to come into these communities, right?
That's right.
And that's not the biggest proponent of why we need what we need, right? It's based off justice. But I'm just saying it hurts America. It hurts all of us. This isn't something, you know, you can't contain evil. You can't contain evil, right? And what these people did to us was evil.
That's
And
right.
like our dear brother Malcolm said, you know, when chickens come home to roost, chicken comes home to roost. And you see this thing impact everybody.
That's
You know,
right.
I see people suffering, man, and sometimes I just sit back and sip on some lemonade or something. Because I know, like, you did this to us thinking it was just going to be in our community. And then, you know, that evil can't be contained. It's
That's
unhinged.
right.
And it reaches out and it impacts all of us. It
That's
impacts
right.
all of us, man. So,
Let
you
me.
know what? We trying to clean up America, right? By cleaning up
Mhm.
our own house first, by cleaning up our own community. Reparations will benefit all of America, right? But it won't necessarily be a tangible benefit.
That's
Yeah.
right. Look, I want to read a little bit more of this, right? And because this article, I'm gonna read the article. I just want to finish reading this article, and then because it's a bunch of stuff that I want to get into. I don't know if I'll be able to, but I want to get into Thomas Sowell, and I want to play his video because I want people to hear this babble. I mean, it's just I was like, yo, what? I was on with Ali earlier. We were listening to it. I was like, bro, what is this man saying, bro? What is he talking about? What is anyway, let's finish reading this, right? So let me see. That last bulletin point was about $13 trillion in business revenue never flowed into the economy because black entrepreneurs couldn't access bank loans. So again, Natalie, you're a liar. You are a liar, and you're ignorant because you don't know this. And because you don't know this, you have taken lies that you haven't researched for yourself and you've spread them, which makes you a liar. So it continues. What's more, the U.S. could have $5 trillion in gross domestic product over the next 5 years if those gaps and others were closed today, the study indicated. I want you to put this into perspective. We're calling for a reparations program. So those numbers look about $400,000 a person spread out over a 10-year period. So that's $40,000 a year per American freedman. This study shows us that in over 20 years, this country lost 16 trillion. What I just spoke to in the $400,000 per American freedman spread out over 10 years is about $14 trillion. $14 trillion. And that's just the direct payment aspect. We're not even getting into the other things that we need repair on. But we know that this thing with the money is the biggest problem because we know and they have to find a way to remain supreme. Oh, the Negroes can't vote. We'll maintain power. Oh, God, the Negroes can vote. Kill them. Kill them dead. Hang effigies of Negroes with signs that said this nigger voted, so we can scare them from going to the polls in the way that you put a scarecrow on your farm to scare away the crows from eating your crops. This is what these devils did, Natalie. I don't know what you're studying, but let's finish. Racial inequality has always had an outsized cost, one that was thought to be paid only by underrepresented groups. Citigroup banking chair Raymond McGuire said in a statement, quote, "What this report underscores is that this tariff is levied on us all." This woman said that reparations would destroy America, which means that she's a liar and she's spreading misinformation, because what this financial institution says is that what this report underscores is that this tariff is levied on us all, that the country is hurting by the fact that we don't have the debt that's owed to us so that we can put back into the economy, one, and two, that because of a systemic racism that still goes on to this day, Natalie, we're losing money to the cost of the next 5 years. They project that we won't even we would have $5 trillion and more in gross domestic product alone if this practice was to end, which means, Natalie, this practice is still ongoing. Federal Reserve data show that white households' net worth grew 43% to $61,200 between 1995 and 2016, while it remained flat at $35,400 for Black families. Moody's Investor Service found that 44% of Black households owned their homes in 2019, compared with 74% of white households. Now we have to disaggregate that data. When they say 44% of Black households, do they mean American freedmen, or is this number, I don't want to say overrepresented by Black immigrants who have come into this country, but I want to say, is this 44% significantly, or is a significant portion of this 44% represented by Black immigrants who own homes in this country? See, we don't know that. This is why we're fighting at the Office of Management and Budget right now to have Blackness disaggregated so that we can know exactly what damage is being done to our people in this country. The study also highlights the real costs of long-lasting discrimination against minority groups, especially against Black people, and particularly in the U.S. Citigroup economist Catherine Mann said in a statement. Natalie is no economist. Sowell is an economist, I believe, and we're going to get to him soon in his lies. We're going to get to him soon. So let me see. A McKinsey study released last year explored how these and other inequities have reduced the nation's wealth. These and other inequities, Natalie, have reduced the nation's wealth. Didn't make it grow. These people are saying reparations is going to destroy the country. How? When racism and discrimination and prejudicial systemic racism is already being shown to destroy the country, according to this study. The nation's GDP, the article continues, the total value of goods and services could be up to 6% higher by 2028, 5 years, if the racial wealth gap is closed. The consulting firm concluded lawmakers must pass targeted policies that boost household income for Black Americans in order to address the issue, McKinsey said. What McKinsey is saying, Natalie, is that lawmakers must pass a program that includes direct payments to the American freedmen to close the racial wealth gap. There's nothing else that will close the wealth gap, Natalie, except reparations. This country has over $1 trillion to gain from the effort, the McKinsey study concluded. Incarceration rates among Black Americans, voter suppression efforts, and conscious bias in hiring all play a role in hindering the U.S. from making strides in closing this gap, Citigroup said. Separately, the financial giant said on Wednesday, Separately, the financial giant on Wednesday said it would direct $1 billion towards helping close the racial wealth gap, including investing $550 million over the next 3 years and encouraging home ownership for people of color. Notice they switched that language up, Ibrahim. When it's time for something to go to us, is the people of color, they're going to get the lion's share. But then it says another 50 million will go towards capital investments for Black entrepreneurs. Again, who are these Black entrepreneurs? Who? Because we showed a story where Black businesses were the targets of some of these investors. And they featured this Black woman from New York. And we looked her up, and she owned a wine store, a wine shop, a winery in New York City. And we looked the sister up, and she was of Caribbean descent. So someone gets to come over from somewhere else. They get to come over from somewhere else and get a foothold, while the people who built this country, Natalie admits to that, have to go to the back of the hiring line again and again and again. I think Ibrahim fell off. Okay, definitely. So we see that, these people are lying, and we have to just call them what they are. They're liars. I want to hold this book up again because it's important. When affirmative action was white, this country has given white America everything. And when America decided that it was going to do something for us, generations ago, we had Natalie's. And we have Natalie's today telling us that we shouldn't get anything. She said we don't deserve reparations, family. We don't deserve it. So, matter of fact, before we pull up Thomas Sowell, let us go to every time the United States of America paid reparations in this country. I hope Natalie watches this video, and I'm pretty certain that some people that clicked like on her video that she shared, her bigoted video, they're watching this because this being streamed on Twitter as well. But this is from the University of Massachusetts Amherst, from their libraries, Reparations in the United States, an historical timeline of reparations payments made from 1783 through 2023 by the United States government, states, cities, religious institutions, yada, 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 yada. Our focus is on the government. So just between 1900 and let's just say 1969, I mean, really 1989, because in 1989, you get the Civil Liberties Acts, which the Japanese got $1.2 billion, $20,000 a person. And if one of the Japanese people weren't alive from the internment that happened in World War II, somebody tell me the date of World War II. Was that the late 30s or the 40s? Somebody help me out with that date. And 50 years later, almost 60 years later, or 40, 50 years later, we get the Civil Liberties Act of 1988. There were people that had died. And you know what the United States did? They gave the ancestors, the living ancestors of these Japanese Americans, the money that would have gone to those who had been directly interred at those internment camps. Natalie says that we shouldn't get reparations for slavery. No, Natalie, you're right. We shouldn't just get reparations for slavery. Let me help you with that one. We should get reparations for Jim Crow as well as slavery. We should get reparations for redlining as well as slavery. We should get reparations for racist housing covenants as well as for slavery. We should get reparations for everything that this country has done to harm us. I'm reading from the reports that debunk everything that you say. I mean, let's just go up. 1980, $81 million to the Klamaths of Oregon. These atrocities The 105 million to the Sioux of South Dakota for seizure of their land. 1985, 12.3 million to the Seminoles of Florida. 31 million in 1985 to the Chippewas of Wisconsin. Most of these atrocities happened to these people's ancestors, family. Go look them up. The descendants of the Klamaths and the Sioux and the Seminoles and the Chippewas and the Ottawas, they were the ones that received payment for what America did to them. And yet you get these white supremacists that tell us that we should not receive any compensation for what this country did to us. So the World War II was from 1939 to 1945. So you had about 40 plus years between the time that these people were placed inside, the Japanese Americans were placed inside internment camps, to the time that they received reparations. Many of these people were very old. Some of them are still living today, old. These are the descendants of the people that were in those camps. Peace, brother Charlie Jacobs, AMPDM1. That's right, reparations for the slave breeding industries. We want what's owed to our ancestors. We built this country. She admitted it. She had to admit it. You know why? Because Trump said it. Trump said you built this country. So let's get to Thomas Sowell. Stop sharing this. Because she does what all races do. You know, I got a black friend. This guy right here, man. This guy right here. He's the black. Thomas Sowell is the black friend. He is the black friend. Y'all make sure y'all hit like on the video if you haven't. Make sure to subscribe to this channel. This is the BTP Media Group channel. Some of you may not be subscribed to this channel. Peace, Hitflix. Hitflix said not a Native American today had their land stolen from them. That's right, Hitflix. Not nobody today, but back in those days they did, and they got compensated for it. We can't get the same. That I read on this show of ours, on our platform, how the government colluded with private white citizens and stole millions of acres of our land, which has had a devastating effect on our ability to pass along generational wealth. Your white and I say so form of teaching don't work, or gaslighting. Let's call it for what it is. That don't work here, Natalie. So let's listen to this super coon. We got to call him what he is. This is what you call the super coon. He is the head of, and again, Ibrahim said earlier, anybody quoting Thomas Sowell is suspect, and they should always be looked at as suspect. So let's hear what he has to say.
Slavery has been a universal institution for thousands of years, as far back as you can trace human history.
Let's pause. Let's pause. Slavery, he's right. That's a fact. What he just said is an absolute fact. But slavery in the United States of America took a form that this history has never seen before. There was a racial classification created by German racists, and it was codified in the laws of this country. Matter of fact, let's teach a little bit. Let us get back to reading. Get back to being pedantic. Okay, so there was a Supreme Court case, the case of a Chinaman named Ayup. And the rationale of racial superiority and racial hierarchy was exemplified by one of the justices. And here is a quote from that case. Let me see. This is an 1878 case. In re Ayup, AHYUP. And speaking of the various classification of races, Webster in his dictionary says, quote, the common classification is that of Blumenbach. Research Friedrich Johann Blumenbach, an avowed German racist, who makes 5. 1, the Caucasian or white race, to which belong the greater part of European nations and those of Western Asia. 2, the Mongolian or yellow race. This is the races that this guy came up with, that the Supreme Court is using as precedent. 5 of them. 2, the Mongolian or yellow race, occupying Tartary, China, Japan, etc. 3, the Ethiopian or Negro, and they have black in parentheses, race, occupying all of Africa except the North. 4, the American or red race, containing the Indians of North and South America. And 5, the Malay or brown race, occupying the islands of the Indian archipelago. Am I saying that right? Archipelago, I think I'm saying that right. Etc. The division was adopted from Buffon. Look him up. I forget his first name. With some changes in names, and is founded on the combined characteristics of complexion, hair, and skull. Y'all know about the pseudoscience. I think it's called phrenology, if I'm not mistaken. Somebody correct me on that one. It says no one includes the white or Caucasian with the Mongolian or yellow race. Why is that important? We have a racial classification system in this country. White, black, Asian or Pacific Islander, Hispanic, and what's the other one? White, Alaska Native or American Indian or Alaska Native. Made up, 5 of them. This government stuck with the framework of the 5 classifications. Blumenbach erases, adopted his from Buffon erases. And these 5 were adopted by this country. Blumenbach made, as the Supreme Court case highlights, that quote I just read highlights, made some adjustments to to Buffon's classification system with a change of some names. The United States, with its 5 racial classifications, which can be found at Federal Directive 15 and used by this country via its census and its data collection, its system of data collection, they have done the same thing. They have taken those 5, keeping white and black, dropping red and yellow and brown, and modified it. But the system is still predicated upon race. Natalie said that we shouldn't be talking about race, but it's codified at Federal Directive 15. This thing is called the racial classification system in this country. We didn't make that up. Your people did, Natalie. Your people enforce this fake idea that they are superior over people that look like me, Natalie. That's why you made that video, because you want to maintain that superiority in any way. And the wealth gap, well, you are at the top and we are at the bottom, Natalie. Why is this important to what Thomas Sowell is saying? This is important because we were enslaved based on our race. In South America, Aztec tribes, when they raided other villages, you seen that movie with, what's the name of that movie? It was produced by, it's about this Native, I don't want to say Native Americans, but I guess that's a proper term. This Hispanic, they're not Hispanic, I'm bugging. They're in South America. I'm drawing a blank and I'm trying to think and talk. Mel Gibson produced the movie. What is the name of that movie? and they're sacrificing the other tribesmen to the sun god Quetzalcoatl, if I'm saying that correctly. Forgive me, I'm drawing blanks right now. But those people looked like them. They enslaved these people. They sacrificed them. They used them for whatever the reasons that they wanted to use them for. I see you in the building, BTP Ali, BTP Riri. They used them for whatever purposes they wanted to use them for. In this instance, we were enslaved because of our race, because of our phenotype. I mean, dude basically said it in the Supreme Court decision that I just read in his opinion, that justice. That's why what Thomas Sowell says here is missing context. And white supremacists do that. Apocalypto. Thank you, Emmanuel L. The Mayans. It was the Mayans. Thank you. I was just drawing all types of blames. Apocalypto. Those people that they captured, and they spoke the same language. They understood each other. They understood each other. So that makes it different. So let's finish playing what this guy is bugged out. I mean, this guy is, I don't know. I question anybody who takes this guy right here serious. So let's finish playing what he says.
And what we're looking at is if slavery is something that happened to one race of people in one country, when in fact the spread of it was around the world.
See, you see what he did right there, right? Like it only happened to one race of people. In the context of race, which is a European creation, it did only happen to one race of people. Because when Genghis Khan and the Mongolians were invading other places, they weren't just invading those places because the people looked different. They were invading those places because they were trying to implement world domination. The same thing with the Romans. Same exact thing. In our case, as was highlighted by Alexander Stephens, the vice president of the Confederacy, we were targeted because there was this supposed curse against Canaan in their Bibles, in their Torah, in their laws that the European adopted from the pale-skinned Jews, that said, "Cursed be Canaan, a servant of servant shall he be unto his brethren." Over these next few live streams, we're going to be using a little bit of their Bible to condemn them. And we're going to highlight the things in their Bibles that they use to condemn us to what they feel are lifetimes of servitude. The story of Jesus and the Canaanite woman, a concoction, because it is said that the woman was begging for Jesus to heal her daughter. I believe the daughter may have been blind or something like that. And Jesus' disciples, apostles, were saying, "Send her away, my Lord, for she is of the Canaanites. We shall not give crumbs to dogs," or something to that effect, Jesus said. But then he said, "But because she has so much faith, I'm going to heal her." Like, these are subtle racisms that's in their text. And we're going to explore those things right here on this platform. And so we have to be clear when we're pushing back against these people that we're pointing out and highlighting this fact. Yes, racism exists. Slavery existed all over the world. It's universal. It goes back generations. But no one has ever been just targeted because of the color of their skin the way we have. This guy needs his credentials revoked.
World in 1776, which is when Adam Smith published The Wealth of Nations, as well as when the United States got started, he said that Western Europe is the only place in the world where there is no slavery.
I laughed. I mentioned Ali earlier and the fact that we were talking about this, right? I was like, what is this guy talking about? Why did he bring that up? That Western Europe was the only place that didn't have any slavery anywhere in the world. For what was the purpose? There is no purpose. It's babble. And for whatever reason, this type of babble sounds good to people that have problems with you and I, people that look like us. And so we are going to dedicate a series to deconstructing the lies and ahistorical disinformation and misinformation being put out by Thomas Sowell and his Sowellians. Let's continue.
And even in the Western Europeans had vast numbers of slaves in the Western Hemisphere, yes, but not in Western Europe itself. And so if you're going to have reparations for slavery.
I don't know if y'all caught that. Yeah, they didn't have slavery in their own portion of Europe, but they did have a lot of slaves. They just didn't bring them. Oh, man. How do y'all listen to these people? Anybody that's from the right that's listening to this, right? And I know some of you are. And I'm talking about the ones that follow this clown. How do y'all listen to this? This is incoherent, ahistoric babble. Let's continue.
It's going to be the greatest transfer of
all right,
wealth.
Let's go back. Let's go back.
Even the Western Europeans had vast numbers of slaves in the Western Hemisphere, yes, but not in Western Europe itself. And so if you're going to have reparations for slavery, it's going to be the greatest transfer of wealth back and forth, and between and cross hauling, as they say in the railroads.
What did he just say? Family, let's play that back. What did he just say? Somebody break this down for me.
Back and forth.
Hold on.
And so if you're going to have reparations for slavery, it's going to be the greatest transfer of wealth back and forth, and between and cross hauling, as they say in the railroads.
Like what was that, family? Reparations, again, I just pulled up how this country has paid reparations to many other groups. Yeah, Sister Frida, cross hauling. What does that mean? Somebody, if anybody that's on the right wing that's watching this, that's a Sowellian, if you would like the link to come on and have this discussion, send me a message, type in the chat. I don't know if you're on Twitter watching, but let's come on and explain what this guy means by transfer of wealth. Because when the Klamaths of Oregon or the Ottawas or the Chippewas or the Sioux, when they received reparations, it wasn't a transfer of wealth. Transfer of wealth is a gaslighting term that signifies that white Americans are somehow going to come out of pocket personally to pay for reparations. The same chick, Natalie, said on her thread about war, the money that's going to Ukraine. She said, I'm against that too. You're not stopping anything. There's no itemized line on your pay stub that says taxes to Ukraine 2% or whatever amount. Like you people are crazy. You people are crazy. And that's why this country is falling apart. It's people like you, Natalie. That's why this country is crumbling. And it's time for the freedmen to get back in power. And I think that these people should go back to their party. They should go back to the Democratic Party where they belong. They really should. They really should. So let's finish listening to this gobbledygook.
Because the number of whites, for example, who were enslaved in North Africa by the Barbary pirates exceeded the number of Africans enslaved in the United States and in the American colonies before that.
Okay. What in the world do Barbary pirates have to do with what's going on in the United States? He's speaking about a time when the Moors ruled North Africa and Europeans were paying tribute to these Moorish sultans by giving up their women. I don't know, them Moors, they liked white women back in the day. They liked white women, and I think they was trying to like breed the whiteness. I don't know. There were wars, and there were white men captured, just like there were Africans captured during the war. There were Europeans captured, let me say. There were no white men then. White men begin in America, just like black men begin in America. And Europeans were captured. It's like Africans were captured when they lost wars to Europe. This incoherent psychobabble that you hear coming from Thomas Sowell means nothing. And we see why he would never, we used to say Thomas Sowell will have to have a debate with his academic equal, which is Dr. Darity. I don't hold that view anymore. I want to debate Thomas Sowell. You know how you hear about somebody's reputation, you be like, oh, they could fight. And then you see him in a fight, you be like, this guy can fight? Like, nah, let me test my knuckles against this dude. Let me see what's going on. And then I'll be able to tell if he can really fight. And this guy can't fight. He would never get this stuff off with not me, not any of us that's watching. Not any of us. This is trash. Barbary pirates and slave. That has nothing to do with the racism that we face in this country and us being slaved on account of our race and dealing with the aberrant behavior of the European Anglo-Saxons at that time. It's nothing. Stuff just makes no sense, man. But this is their black friend.
Put together. I know, but nobody is going to North Africa to ask for reparations because nobody is going to be fool enough to give it to them.
Okay, look how stupid this sounds. Nobody is going to North Africa to ask for reparations because no one would be foolish enough to give it to them. Who would go to North Africa? Isn't a country. This is nonsense, family. This is nonsense. What are they going to do? Find the descendants of the sultans of Morocco, the Moorish Empire? Like, what do they mean exactly? I mean, what does this guy mean? This is why they can't stand on those arguments in front of us. And if they try, we are going to destroy them. We live in the United States of America, the country that allowed our slavery, that sanctioned it, that in many instances legalized it, with its fugitive slave clause, with its 3/5 compromise, and all of those different things that we find that were attached to us as a people in this country. That's why the price tag starts with the federal government, first and foremost. The invoice, excuse me. It starts with the federal government. Let's hear some more of this babble.
Here we have intellectuals who can imagine a different history from the rest of the world, even though it's so similar to the rest of the world.
So this guy is supposed to be their intellectual. And I'm not an intellectual per se. I know a little bit. What Jay said, I ain't passed the ball, but I know a little bit. I will cook this dude, family. I will absolutely cook this guy in a debate. So the purpose of this live stream, number one, we're trying to get back into our groove, and we want to highlight some things, because people like Natalie that are making these clickbait videos for likes, this is IG modelism, right? It's like, I can't show my coochie on screen, but let me spew my racism and I'll probably get more exposure. Like, yes, this works. This works right here. I want to show something, right? Because we are entering in a time when we, especially black men, are starting to look more towards the Republican Party, because a lot of the values that's held in that party, the old ancient values, if you will. You know, it's being called conservative today. We know that that's not the original, well, intent of what conservative means, and I'm willing to have a debate on that. But we understand what it means today. We understand what it means today, and as our people are starting to lean more Republican, lean more conservative, the racist whites in this country and what Charles Blow called light supremacists, those that are not quite white, are like Vivek and Nikki Haley, etc. These are the people that are choosing to attack us. They're attacking us, the people that they need to get over the hump in these elections. As Biden lets in, man, I mean, what it's been, 1 million immigrants since he's been in office. I'm not sure of the numbers, but I seen one report that said during Biden's administration, there has been estimates that show 20,000 immigrants per month have been entering this country. And somebody could fact check me on that, but I believe I seen that some months back. So I want to share this. This comes from the Pew Research. And I shared this the other day in a space where Black Republicans and conservatives, they were holding a Twitter space and they were speaking to a topic that we also held as a Twitter space. Should Black people join the Republican Party? And I believe their space said take over the Republican Party. So this is from the Pew Research. Let's get into this. Most Black adults agree the descendants of enslaved people should be repaid. Of course. Black Democrats, more likely than Republicans, to think descendants of the enslaved should be repaid. Percent of Black adults who say descendants of people enslaved in the U.S. should be repaid in some way, such as given land or money. So let's break this down. All Black adults, 17% say no, 77% say yes. And this is deep because in that 17%, how many are American freedmen? We don't know that. For all we know, most of this 17% could be Black immigrants. This is why disaggregation is so important, and that's why we're fighting to have American freedmen, not African American, not Black, not Negro, not ADOS, not FBA, but a true legal term reestablished in this country as our ethnic designation, because we need to have these numbers. You could call yourself what you want outside of that, but those things won't hold up. American freedmen will. Republican / leans Republican. 34% of Black Republicans / lean Republicans say no. Again, how much of the, right? But 64% of Black Republicans who lean Republican say yes to reparations. From our experience, many Black Republicans that we've come across through social media, be fair, have been Black immigrants. The ones that are against reparations, let me clarify that. The ones who have been against reparations are Black immigrants, meaning either they came directly from another country or they are of Black immigrant stock, whether from Africa, the Caribbean, etc. Dem / lean Democrat. Of course, 16% say no, 81% say yes. That's curious. The 16% that are Democrat. Again, I want to see these numbers disaggregated. We need to know exactly who's saying what. But this is the point. All of these numbers are 64% of Black Republicans, according to this Pew Research poll, supporting reparations is still great. But this conservative number, why is this important? because there are many Black conservatives, and I said I was going to stop saying that, but I'm going to say that for the sake of this stream, who say that they're not Republicans. They don't claim a party. They just say that they're conservative. And I think that's why we may see a jump in this number here. Possibility. Conservatives, those who disagree with reparations, Black conservatives, 23%. Those who agree, 71%. This is important. You can see the numbers of the moderate, Black moderates, Black liberals. Of course, those numbers are going to be high. Of course, those numbers are going to be high. But that conservative number sticks out. And at a time when the Republican Party desperately needs more of the Black voting bloc, which they got during Trump's first, I believe it was I can't remember the number on the second election. But on that first election, I know that Trump received more Black voters than any Republican, I believe, in the history of this country, or right wing. Let's say right wing votes. I believe. Somebody could correct me on that if I'm wrong. And what these people are deciding to do is attack us. And it's not just reparations, family. They are blatantly attacking us. And it's leading to articles by white supremacists like Douglas K. Murray, who wrote an article in the New York Post calling reparations revenge. Brother Logic said, yep, it absolutely is revenge, which we believe caused the Buffalo shooter, we can't prove this, to write on his AR-15, here's your reparations, and gunned down a bunch of freedmen, elders. Now, he didn't go to the hood where he could test his AR out against other incoming fire, right? And they say we're dangerous and we got guns in the hood. Okay, well, go to the hood and test your firepower out. No, you pulled the Dylan Roof. Right, I'm gonna find soft targets. Sucker. And that's what these people are. They're suckers. They are. And that's why they're attacking us instead of attacking the issues that are driving America into decay as a country. A republic, as long as you can keep it. That was said by what's his name? Benjamin Franklin. What type of government do we have? A republic, as long as we can keep it. We've been day one citizens of this country, and we have every right. We have every right to participate in this republic. We have every right to petition this government for a redress of our grievances that is enshrined in this Constitution. Because other groups, all of those Indian groups and Japanese Americans, etc., even LGBTQ people have had legislation passed for them as a form of reparative justice, and we have not. The George Floyd Justice and Policing Act is still languishing in Congress. We figure that it's going to languish just like H.R. 40, that useless piece of legislation, for 30 plus years. And while you get Clyburn and probably his daughter coming after him to tell us the same exact stuff that Clyburn was saying and pushing about reparations only meaning repair and not payments. That the Democrats are not pushing for reparations. The Democrats are vehemently opposed to reparations. They just pretend like they are. But we know what the talking points are. So, family, I'm going to end this. There's a whole bunch of different points that I wanted to get into, but I'm going to end this. We're at the 2-hour mark. And I want to pull up, because I said we was going to start using the Bible to condemn these people and their racism. Because these people are racist. We got to call it for what it is. John 8:44. You are of your father, the devil, Natalie, and your will is to do your father's desires. He was a murderer from the beginning and does not stand in the truth because there is no truth in him. When he lies, he speaks out of his own character, for he is a liar and the father of lies. The father of lies. I could get into the book, The Bloody Shirt, and break this whole little verse down using that whole book. He does not stand in the truth because there is no truth in him. And when he lies, he speaks of his own character, for he is a liar and the father of lies. Natalie, you are of your father, the devil. And so is people like Thomas Sowell, because the devil is a liar. The devil is adversarial to all things that is good. How is it good for other groups to receive reparative justice after petitioning this government for a redress of their grievances, as is enshrined in this Constitution? But it's wrong for us. Natalie said it was bad. She said it was bad for us because she is of her father, the devil. We have to call the devil the devil. Again, shout out to my John Browns that are out there who are fighting this good fight with us. We are not here to condemn all white Americans. We know who the devils are, and they speak with forked tongue, and they cannot back up anything that they're teaching. And we have to keep it real. We have to keep this thing 100% real. If not, then we'll find ourselves in a cycle where we are on a hamster's wheel, getting a symbolic, right? Of the hamster being on the wheel is symbolic to him actually running somewhere. It's going nowhere. And this has been the fate of our people politically in this country for generations. And we are putting an end to that. So I am going to shut this live stream down. Family, this is the first of many in our new season of Be the Power, if you will. I guess we could call it the new season. And we need y'all support. We need y'all support. Again, nobody's doing it the way BTP is doing it. And this was just light. I didn't even get into everything that I was going to get into because I had a couple books that I was going to read from today. And I don't know. I might come on tomorrow. You know, I might continue this conversation tomorrow because it's a conversation that's needed. This conversation is absolutely needed. This country is falling apart right in front of our faces. Illegal immigrants are flooding cities all over the country. Illegal immigrants. And the government of this country is footing the bill. States' governments are footing the bill. And you are, instead of complaining about that, deciding to come at us because you see the topic heating up and you do not want equality with us in any way. And I'm again talking only to the racists in this country. You'd rather cut off your own nose to spite your own face. And we are the noses. Oh, yes, we are. Big, broad, quote unquote, Negro noses at that. So with that, family, I don't know. I might come on tomorrow. I might do a part 2 to this. I'm not sure. But, you know, the conversation needs to be had. We need to keep this thing going. We need to build up support for the channel. Make sure y'all click like on the channel. Share it out. This is the BTP Media Group channel. If you are not subscribed to the channel, subscribe to the channel. Support the platform. $ be the power is the Cash App. You can also send donations through our website because we have a nonprofit, the United Sons and Daughters of Freedmen. We are honoring our freedmen ancestors right here. We flexing our muscle. That's what BTP is about. BTP is about flexing our political muscle, flexing our intellectual muscle. That's what we're doing here. And we're trying to bring this thing together so that we can build out our organization. And our chapters really are going to be rolling out soon. And we ain't going to be saying that for the next 3 years. We are starting our membership drive in June, family. So for those of you who are interested in joining the United Sons and Daughters of Freedmen, those applications will be on the website usadof.org very soon. We are putting our board together. We have several strong people on our board. We're adding new members as we speak, people that are about something, You know, honor Sister Cynthia. She said, next time put your chef's hat on and an apron because you were cooking. You know what? I actually have an apron. I might actually buy me a chef hat, and I might actually do that. When we got to cook people, I might actually throw the apron on and throw me a little chef's hat on. And whenever we got to cook somebody, I might get all the way into character, straight up. Sister Cosetta Osler said, Freedman, let's go to Washington to get our check. Chef Naheem, yeah, I like the sound of that. Or Naheem the chef, you know, in the spirit of our brother Raekwon the chef, you know, Naheem the chef. I like that. So look, family, I'll leave you all with the motto of the platform, which is don't just fight the power, become the power, and then and only then will you have the power to make a change. And with that, I say peace.